Right. Likutei Moharan, Toy Tes, Tefillah lechavokok, Safran Detzniuso. That's the first Torah on Safra Detzniuso. The Rebbe starts with this pasuk that Chavokuk, the prophet, said, Tefillah lechavokuk hanovi al shivyonis. The tefillah that Chavokuk hanovi had davened when he became aware of the patience that the Kadosh Baruch Hu has to wait for the wicked until they'll make tshuva. And then he will be merchel to them, and their advertent averos will become shgogas, will become like inadvertent. That's what Rashi says. That is the pasuk on which this entire Torah is predicated. And right now, we are delving into very deep Kabbalah concept. Isa besafra detzniusu. It says in this mimer, in Kabbalah, that is part of the Zohar. Birko Kadmo. That's the first chapter of this concealed book. Safra Detzniuso means a concealed book. It's in Zohar Parshas Teruma. Adalo have matkele. Until there wasn't in the world the concept of balance. In other words, that's before the Tikkun. The supernal personas were not Masudr according to the mysterious principle of three lines, the right, the left, and the middle. In the middle line is the balance between the right and the left. Only then it's called a partzef. Only then it's called a supernal persona. Before it has these aspects of right and left, chesed and gvura, and the middle line, which balances them, it's not called parts of, it's just called spheres. But it's not called parts of. It's not yet a fully formed concept. It says before they had this concept of balance, the personas, the patzufim, were not looking panim, were not looking at one another face to face. Ela achoy b'achoy, only back to back. In Olam Atzilus, there is 5 persona, 5 spiritual structures. Arich Anpin, which corresponds to the sphere of the Kesed. You have the persona of Abba, Father, which corresponds to the sphere of Chochmah. You have Ima, which corresponds to the sphere of Bina. And you have Zer Anpin, the small face, which corresponds to the 6 Sefirot from Chesed all the way to Yesod. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Those 6 are part of that supernal persona, parts of which is called Zer Anpin. In the Nukva, the female, which corresponds to the sphere of the Malchus. Now, the Partzufim, these structures, these supernal personas, they unify with one another. Now, the spheres are ordered, are placed in an orderly fashion, according to 3 lines. The Chochmah, the Chesed, and the Netzach, they're on the right side. Okay? The Bina, the Gvura, and the Hoid, they are on the left side. The Kesed, the Tiferes, the Yesod, and the Malchus, they are situated on the middle line. Now, before this world was created, the world was in a state of Shviras HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels. At that time, the Partzufim were not situated in along 3 lines. That's why they were also not connected to one another with panim eponim, which means close intimacy. But achoy becha, but back to back. They were connected, but afterwards the world went through the process of tikkun, and the Partzufim were put in order of 3 lines. And then they become in a concept of panim eponim. The Achad Ve'achar is also a connection. But it's a distant connection. As we said, even, the servants and the slaves and the vagrants and the dogs, they all eat from the meal of the king. But only when it goes out of the hall, of where the Suda is. They also receive, but they receive B'chinas Achar. All those who face the king are B'chinas Makabel Panim Eponim. So the spheres were always connected, but they were connected Achal B'Achal. It's only once they became a Sudar, along those 3 lines, which are expressed within the expression of balance, which means left, right, left, middle. Then he says there was balance. Then they started, looking at each other, connecting with one another, b'fchinas, panim b'panim. Says Rabbeinu as follows. Because people wonder, why do you have to travel to the tzaddik and to hear from his mouth? You consider home and learn Musas Farim. It's really a great benefit when you go to the tzaddik. There is a big difference. Somebody who hears it from the mouth of the true tzaddik himself. And hearing from somebody else who says it mishma. How much more so when you hear it from somebody who heard it from somebody who heard it. Because the further it gets, it steps down, it trickles down. The further it is from the mouth of the tzaddik. Who hears from the tzaddik to somebody who actually learns from the sefer, it is a huge difference. Huge difference. We would have to say that watching it on a video is like hearing it from somebody who heard it. Now, Rabbeinu, first of all, puts another principle, lays down another principle to explain this matter. Ki tzorich lezakech es haponim. A person needs to cleanse, to purify his face. Shiyuchol kol echad liros hasponov, that everybody who looks at you will be able to see a reflection of his own face. Beponim shali, when he looks at your face. Kmo b'mara, like in a mirror. Ad asher b'lo teichecho v'lo musar, without any admonishment, without any musar, without any pontification. Yischoret chaver teichach al nasa, but his friend will immediately regret his bad deeds. Like mimashi abid b'ponim shalei, just by looking at your face. When a person looks at the face of a tzaddik that has purified his face, he is going to see himself like in a mirror. Like his face is steeped in darkness. This is a state that every person needs to bring himself in. Now, the Rebbe is going to explain a concept which is called the Lashon Kodesh, the holy language, and how you can attain the sanctity of the Lashon, of the language. And at the end, afterwards, he will say at the end how through the aspect, when you attain the aspect of Lashon Kodesh, the sanctity of the speech, a person can cleanse his face to the point that another can see where he himself is holding just by looking at your face. And in Mele, it will be explained why it is necessary to go to the tzaddik and to hear from him. Why it's not enough just to read the Nusas Fatah. Sif Gimel. Ki godel yikar ha'erech shel Lashon Kodesh. We can see the preciousness, the great stature and importance of Lashon Kodesh, which is the Hebrew language. Shabo nivra olam. That is the language with which the world was created. Kimamar Chazal, as Chachamei Zechariah said about other version that said about Chava that was created from one of his sides, Lazoi Sikora Isho. This one will be called a woman. Kimi Ish Lukachazo. Is going to be called Isha because it was taken from Ish. Obviously, you're talking about rhyming here. Isha and Ish, they're based on the same root. So obviously, if the Isha is called Isha because it is taken from an Ish, because phonetically they're the same, it means that the world was created Lashon Kodesh. Right? Meish lokachat zo, no Lashon noifel al Lashon. This is a language. The Hebrew words are a language a tongue falls on a tongue. What it means, an expression is like resembling another expression. Lashon, nofed al Lashon, a tongue falling on a tongue. That was the second time, the Isha, the word Isha falls on Ish. It comes from the root of Ish. So that resemblance, that phonetic, whatever words one would like to use, the technical words of when words are taken from other words that are basically something, something like that. They're taken with the same root. It's called Loshon Neufel Loshon. It's like the Beatles. It comes from beat, All the Beatles. It says Loshon Neufel Loshon. I tell you. That's where it comes from. Now, there's Loshon Neufel Loshon. The tongue falls on a tongue. Loshon Neufel Loshon. A word is derived from another word. From here the proof that the world was created in Lashon Kodesh. Olam Hashem called Chava Isha because it was taken from Ish. In other words, the Lashon Isha, the word Isha, the expression Isha, resembles the expression Ish. So we see that the world was created in Lashon Kodesh. In other words, that was the language that was spoken. That was a spoken language during the creation of the world. Because it's only Lashon Kodesh that the name of Ish resembles the expression of Isha. And Chazal said that also the actual creation of the world itself. It's not just that once the world was created, the coin of the realm, the language, the national language was Lashon Kodesh. It means that the world itself was created in Lashon Kodesh because the world was created with Dibur, it was created in speech. In other words, it is through the spiritual properties that there is in the letters of Lashon Kodesh. Because every single letter really represents a spiritual concept. Everything in the world was created through conjugation of oasis, different kind of which are spiritual concepts, spiritual principles that enter the thing and gives it chayas, as we'll explain further. If you will see in Torah Vav, for instance, like we saw in Torah number 6, the Rebbe explains, we learn here that at the very beginning, until there was a mishkan, until there was a balance, they were not looking at one another. There was no apim be'apim. The first letter of the Aleph base is the Aleph. Okay. The Rebbe explains. On the right side above, you have the Nekuda Elyono, and on the left side you have the Nekuda Tachtoino. In between them you have a line. The Nekuda Elyono does not connect to the middle of the line. Neither does the bottom. There will be an X, right? The letter X. But it's connected to the lower part, like 3/4 of the line down, and the lower Nekuda is connected to like 3/4 of the line up. That's why you get the Aleph. The upper point, as the Rebbe explains in Torah Vav, represents the Sfiras HaChochma, represents the sun. That's the source of the energy. The Nekuda Tachtoina, the lower dot, represents the Malchus. That's the receptacle. The line in the middle represents the Vav, represents the Zeir Anpin, represents the diffusion mechanism, the interface between the Chochmah and the Malchus. Here you have encapsulated in one letter the whole principle of the entire existence. Every single letter represents a deep principle, spiritual principle, and that when you put them together, they come to represent a meaning, and with the spiritual properties of the letters, inner mysteries, the entire creation was built. Today, we use a combination of the letters to express what we think, to express our will, to bring information, to tell about how we feel. Before the world was creation, the inner meaning of the letters, combined into words, combined into sentences, combined into whatever, because Baruch Hu used it to create the entire world. And these letters were the letters of the Lashon Kodesh, of the holy tongue, the holy language. This is the reason why the wife of Adam Rishon was called Chava. B'fchinas, it says in Tehillim, "V'layla lelayla yechavedas," that the day and the night are exchanging, and it causes people to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the pashut, or it's a pashut of what we're talking about. But in it, there's also a different remez, that Laila lelayla yechavedas, a night to a night will talk, will profess das. In the world, yechava, which was meaning will say, will express, will transmit, will communicate. A night to night shall communicate das. So Yechavim, communicating, has in it the word Chava. In other words, Chava is a lotion of dibur, of talk. It is also possible to understand this. Why is Chava called dibur? Don't tell me because women talk non-stop. Don't say that. I didn't say that. I did not say that. I did not say that. The Gemara says that. It's not me. I didn't say that.
Just repeating.
Because the whole notion of speech is only shayach when there's somebody else. The speech is the separator. As long as a baby does not speak, the entire existence for him is one thing. It's not broken down into words. It's not broken down into definitions. It feels something called hunger. It cries. Give it milk, it stops crying. Diaper is bothering it. It cries. Change diaper, doesn't bother, it doesn't cry. There's no sense of self vis-a-vis somebody else. It's only when the baby starts to talk, mama, dada, that means this is me, this is mama, this is dada. The speech separates. That's why the world was created through speech. Because by speaking, HaKadosh Baruch Hu separated himself and creation. Until everything was one. You can create, the kingdom come, whatever it is you want, but it's still one thing. It has to be separated. The dibur, the speech, separates. Chava was the first other person there was. With her creation was automatically created the kinds of communication, or more likely lack of communication.
What's the system?
Sorry about that one. I'm sorry. No, I won't do it again.
I know, what's the system?
The rest is history. לא יחווה. היינו בחינת דיבור של לושן קודש, שבו נברא העולם. Chava represents the dibur of the Loshen Kodesh with the world was created. Now, because Chava represents the sphere of the Malchus, Tikkun Hazeh says, Malchus is dibur, Malchus peh. So the dibur of Loshen Kodesh is the principle of Chava. The Loshen Kodesh, in other words, through spheres of Malchus, the world was created. That's a whole different chest of treasure. Because only the world was created through Malchus. We'll just leave it at that. This should be called a woman. Zois, in other words, Zois, the word Zois, this one, female, this one, Hainu Dibur. כמו שנאמר, it is said in Bereshis, V'zois asher dibur lahem. And that in female expression that he had spoken to them. So you saw that Zois is mentioned to mean dibur, to mean communication. So Zois is a euphemism for communication, for dibur. So Zois and the dibur, communication, Yikor Ish is going to call a woman, Chava. Malchus. So now you see that in the Pasuk, Zois Yikor Isha, that this shall be called a woman, which denotes the preciousness of the Loshen Kodesh, how important it is, because it's the language with which the world was created. That Pasuk itself talks about a woman, talks about Chava, which is the Dibur Loshen Kodesh. We have spoken many times about the fact that that it is the constriction of the black that enables you to discern any kind of information from the white. Talked about it many times. It is also that men are, when things are the way they should be, men are healthily constricted by their women. It's called the Teras Bala. She rings her husband. Because the husband his head is flying all over. And the woman good woman. It says, behind every great man, there's a great woman. You know that because she's the one that forces him to have his feet on the ground. And the principle is always the principle of kenegdoi, against him. It is the againstness, the contrariness of the woman that enables to contain the man in an effectual manner, in a productive manner. And together they continue. As we said, men come with ideas. I want to wear a shtraymo. From now on, I'm wearing the shtraymo. A long record with a shtraymo. And the wife says, over my dead body you do it. Okay.
It separates, turn it up.
If it's really important. The women have this mechanism of knowing what is rubbish and what's important. And the way she discerns what's rubbish and what's important is by your honesty. When she sees that you stick to something, so she tests you, she pushes you. No way. You keep on holding it, and she sees you reading it, okay, she turns it on, she goes with it. Anything which is baloney flies out the window. You would go on it, but it's not worth the trouble, it's not arguing with my wife. It's important enough, to stick with it. She has the chush, she has the sense to see that this is in general. The night prepares the day. The night is the medium from which you can extricate from the day that which is necessary. That's why the night is considered the female, and the day is considered the male.